Hello and welcome to Deranged News with your host, Miss Tech. Hello and welcome to Miss Tech Radio, the only broadcasting show to bring you the USSA propaganda. Today I figured we'd start out with none other than Governor Cuomo. During the summer of 2020, I told my friends on Facebook that Governor Cuomo was the leading person responsible for killing most people during the pandemic. Of course, they all thought I was crazy, but it turns out I wasn't. DC Drano on Twitter says 45 out of 50 governors did not force COVID-infected patients into nursing homes, but 5 did. Cuomo of New York, Wolf of Pennsylvania, Whitmer of Michigan, Murphy of New Jersey, and Newsom of California. The funny thing is, all of these people made headlines throughout 2020 because their constituents were so angry with the way that they were handling the pandemic. Nearly half of all COVID nursing home deaths were in these states. That's not an accident. That is systemic murder. And if you even look at the date of this tweet, it was posted June 22nd, 2020. The New York Post says Cuomo threatens Democrat-run Kim over nursing home scandal. Quote, "You will be destroyed." A state lawmaker from Queens says a spitting mad Governor Andrew Cuomo threatened to destroy him if he didn't help contain the damage over the Cuomo administration's cover-up of nursing home resident COVID-19 deaths. Assemblyman Ron Kim, whose uncle died of the coronavirus in a nursing home, said Wednesday that he got a phone call from the fellow Democrat governor on the night of February 11th that quickly turned dark, with Cuomo ultimately warning, quote, "You have not seen my wrath." This comes in the wake of the DOJ opening an official investigation into the Cuomo death cover-up. The call came shortly after the Post exclusively reported how Secretary to the Governor Melissa DeRosa admitted on a conference call with lawmakers that Cuomo's administration withheld the true death toll among the nursing home residents for fear it would be used against us by federal prosecutors. Quote, "At first, there was a silence on the phone," end quote, Kim said. Then the governor says, "Mr. Kim, are you an honorable man?" Cuomo's spokesman, Rich Azzopardi, issued a nearly 800-word prepared statement in which he accused Kim of, quote, lying about his conversation with Governor Cuomo Thursday night. Quote, "I know because I was one of 3 other people in the room when the phone call occurred," end quote, as the party said. At no time did anyone threaten to destroy anyone with their wrath, nor engage in a cover-up. He added, "That's beyond the pale, and is unfortunately part of a years-long pattern of lies by Mr. Kim against this administration. I can tell the whole world what a bad person you are, and you will be finished," Kim recalled Cuomo saying. "You will be destroyed." Cuomo was so angry, Kim said, that my wife could hear the governor yelling into the phone. At one point, Cuomo, a former state attorney general, also asked Kim if he was a lawyer, which he is not. After that call, we were devastated. My wife didn't sleep at all. Later, Cuomo called Kim 4 or 5 times on Saturday, but Kim did not pick up. Kim has been among Cuomo's most outspoken critics since his uncle, Son Kim, died in a nursing home in April after suffering symptoms of COVID-19. Now, regardless of what you think about the pandemic, these nursing home deaths were very, very real. It's people like Andrew Cuomo of New York and Governor Murphy of New Jersey who truly devastated the nursing home population because of their decision to put inmates into nursing homes, even after President Trump said multiple times that the elderly and immune-compromised are most at risk for COVID-19. Of course, Andrew Cuomo did not like President Trump whatsoever, so his own selfishness of petty partisan politics is to blame. This is straight from the Epoch Times. state lawmakers to call for impeachment of New York Governor Cuomo. This comes after a year of constant criticism for how Andrew Cuomo and New York Mayor Bill de Blasio have been handling the pandemic. New York Assemblyman Michael Montesano, Republican, is planning to ask the state legislature to look into filing articles of impeachment against Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo after his top aide appeared to admit that the administration allegedly covered up data on CCP virus nursing home deaths to evade a Department of Justice investigation. Quote, "We've been calling for subpoenas and hearing for quite a while," Montesano told Fox News, according to an article published on February 13th. "This news of the last several days is extremely troubling to me, and I'm going to be asking today for his resignation, and I'm also going to be asking the legislature to look into to explore filing of articles of impeachment against the governor if he does not resign." Melissa DeRosa, the secretary to the governor, told top New York Democrats last week that Cuomo's administration withheld the data on nursing home deaths because it was concerned the information could be used against us by the Department of Justice, which was investigating nursing home deaths in 4 states, including New York. "This is now criminal," Montesano said. "The governor wants to talk about how our attacks on him are political. They're not political. We've had an inkling all the while that they were covering stuff up, and now she admitted they covered things up because she knew the Department of Justice has an active investigation going on the nursing home problems, which a lot of us in the legislature, especially in the minority, requested that they do." So it looks like she's thrown Governor Cuomo under the bus to save her own tail, but it's all in due time. Governor Cuomo has been highly criticized all throughout 2020 for his handling of the pandemic, along with the governors I mentioned in the beginning. Now, this is something to think about. Andrew Cuomo killed more New Yorkers than Osama bin Laden. It's time for our daily segment of ironic news. During the summer of burning, looting, and murdering, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and radical leftists called for defunding of the police. In Minneapolis, it turns out they did just that. NPR says Minneapolis Council moves to defund the police, establish holistic public safety force in June of 2020. The Washington Post, Minneapolis violence surges as police officers leave the department in droves. I wonder why. In September of 2020, Minneapolis City Council is alarmed by the surge in crime months after voting to defund the police. With violent crime on the rise in Minneapolis, the city council asks, where are the police? Some Minneapolis city council members would like a redo on defunding the police. And finally, the Associated Press, February 2021 posts Minneapolis to spend $6.4 million to recruit more police officers. Oh my goodness, you cannot. It does not get any better than this, folks. It does not get any better than this. Let's check out our old pals Antifa. Anthony Go posts, Antifa posts graphic images and flyers like this all over Portland. It is to incite political violence, and it works. It's in this context that one of their members hunted down a Trump supporter and was immediately cheered on by his comrades. Advocating the murder of your political opponent, no matter how odious you find their beliefs, has no place in civil society. John Henry Delaney, aka Mirari Delaney, was one of several Antifa who pointed out videographer Katie Davis Court so she could be assaulted overnight. Delaney has been arrested several times at violent Antifa protests in Seattle. Yet he's still let go because the lawmakers, the district attorney there, and the courts all refuse to keep Antifa held in police custody. This is from Katie Davis Court. Antifa militants began to throw objects at Seattle PD West Precinct. They then pointed her out in order to target her and then chanted her name. A bicyclist with a camera tried to follow the Antifa who assaulted others with pepper spray during his or her escape. The person throws a projectile at the cameraman. Hashtag Seattle riots. This is happening this week. She was recording them during their violent protest against police in response to 2 police officers who had shot dead a person who pursued them with a knife. Hashtag Antifa promises vengeance for that. Yes, they'll go after the police officers who were using self-defense, but not after the person wielding a knife. I figured we'd go and check up on our little buddy, John Sullivan. Amuse is back on Twitter with an update. Agent Provocateur update. The media is attempting to gaslight the American people by suggesting that the self-described anti-fascist and the Black Lives Matter rioter, John Sullivan, aka Jaden X, attended the 1-6 as a paid journalist and not, as the FBI has alleged, a true agent provocateur. On 1-6, John Sullivan disguised himself as a Trump supporter, and with his paramour, Jade Sacker, a photojournalist who has worked for NPR and NBC, breached the Capitol with 800 other people. At one point, Sullivan encouraged a female Air Force veteran to jump through a broken window, at which point he filmed her being shot by a Capitol police officer. It is reported that Jade Sacker used her media contacts to sell his video to several media outlets, including CNN. Sullivan was arrested during the riot, and while he was in custody, Jade Sacker reportedly began marketing their videos. When Sullivan was released that night after agreeing to share his video with the FBI, Sacker arranged for Sullivan to appear on Anderson Cooper's CNN program. Sacker arranged for CNN to pay Sullivan $35,000 for his video and his appearance on Anderson Cooper's program. See the attached contract with CNN and the wire transfer. Sacker was also able to sell Sullivan's video to NBC for $35,000, to Left Right Productions for $5,000, and to Australian Broadcasting Corporation for $2,500. Yeah, you got that right. They paid this guy over $40,000. Anderson Cooper's face sums up my reaction to this entire ordeal. The guy's been arrested on attempted murder charges, as well as 2 other violent protest charges, and yet he was released and given $40,000, while 60-year-old patriots sat and rotted in jail, along with other journalists, citizen journalists, who are still in jail and unable to pay their legal fees because social media has blocked them from the internet. This is straight from the Epoch Times. Facebook has pulled its big gun and fired on Australia, says former Facebook CEO. Former Facebook CEO Stephen Sheeler said Facebook has pulled out a big gun and fired on Australia by banning users from viewing and sharing news on the platform. The news ban, which has spilt over also to affect government and emergency services, is the social media giant's retaliation to the Morrison government's impending news media bargaining code. Sheeler continued, saying Facebook feels not enough value is being put into the organization with the new bargaining code by the Australian government. Therefore, the decision was to pull down news altogether, to not be covered by the code. I think Facebook may eventually regret this day, he said. Major news outlets, including the Sydney Morning Herald, the Australian, The Age, and the Epoch Times, awoke on Thursday to find the tech giant had implemented an outright ban across their Facebook pages. However, a swath of non-media-related Facebook pages were also caught in the crossfire, with websites for the Queensland Health Department, the Bureau of Meteorology, and the Members of Parliament. Even non-profit organizations such as 1800 Respect and trade unions saw their pages wiped. This throws a monkey wrench into Australian democracy, Sheeler said. Again from the Epoch Times, Facebook's Australian news ban justifies more big tech regulation. According to Chris Cooper, executive director at Reset Australia, Facebook's decision to pull news content from Australia justifies the need for better regulation around big tech. This is the biggest argument that could be made for better regulation around these platforms to mitigate the harms these reckless decisions have on our democracy, Cooper told Sky News. Facebook pulling news and recklessly removing Australians' access to reliable news sources beyond just news sites during a pandemic and the rollout of a vaccine just highlights what little regard Facebook has for the Australian people, he said. Facebook is essentially spitting the dummy after being asked to meaningfully participate in regulatory negotiations. Over on Twitter, Sally McManus says, "So Facebook has blocked access to our website. We are not a news organization. Australian workers cannot now find out about their rights at work via Facebook. This is disgraceful and needs to be reversed immediately." The ban comes as Facebook follows through on a threat to remove news content in response to the Morrison government's impending news media bargaining code. The code legislates a framework where eligible Australian news outlets can enter negotiations with Google and Facebook to pay for their content. That's it for today's episode, and until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!